Not too long ago, we got the first proper trailer for Toy Story 5, and it's really been a long time coming, hasn't it? Toy Story is a franchise I've always had a lot of love for, and honestly, I think this is probably true for the vast majority of my generation. Pixar started releasing films when I was a little kid, and so the likes of Toy Story and Toy Story 2 were on a constant replay when I was small. As I got older, I sort of fell out of animation as a whole, but even then, I couldn't say no to the nostalgia overload when they released Toy Story 3. For me, it was the perfect ending to the franchise, and by the time Toy Story 4 rolled around, I was not all that happy. I gave it a chance, and I didn't really like it at all, as I felt like it undid all the beautiful storytelling for Woody's character from the third film, where he comes to terms with Andy no longer needing him and moves on to a new child in Bonnie. A year or two ago, I came to the decision to give it another chance for the first time since I saw it in the cinema, and my mind actually did change quite a lot. I thought it was a very beautiful story about Woody realizing that his time's up, and he doesn't want the same life he had before. He has a new purpose. That being said, in my eyes, it was the definitive ending for the franchise nonetheless. They'd walked back a truly beautiful end-of-childhood storyline with all the toys and Andy to give Woody something of the same thing in the fourth film. Toy Story wouldn't be Toy Story with all the different toys from Andy's room, and yet it would be kind of cheap to bring them all back together for a future film after that ending. Thus, when we found out about Toy Story 5, I was rather negative and skeptical overall. I've made a couple of videos about this in the past, but the gist was that they'd simply reset the status quo and it wouldn't feel earned or interesting. I figured that the use-by date had been and gone, and that Pixar should move on with something else. I also wasn't particularly sure about the concept of technology versus toys, and whether that would be a compelling storyline for them to anchor a film around. The concept art and the leaked clips did look interesting, but I just wasn't sure. I thought there was a good chance this would be the final nail in the coffin for the franchise. Not in terms of success, as no matter what I think, these films are going to get award nominations and make a whole lot of money. It's Toy Story after all, but that doesn't mean I'm going to enjoy them. Then of course, just recently we got that trailer, and it seems that for the time being, I am going to have to eat my words about the franchise because it looks really good, and so now there's nothing else for it but to go through the trailer itself. First, we get a little blurb to go along with the trailer that reveals a little bit about the story. It reads, "The toys are back, and this time Buzz Lightyear, Woody, Jessie, and the rest of the gang's jobs are challenged when they come face to face with LilyPad, a brand new tablet device with her own disruptive ideas about what's best for their kid Bonnie. Will playtime ever be the same?" So immediately it became clear to me that LilyPad was going to be an out-and-out villain at least at first. However, this blurb also gave me the idea that there could be some sort of peace made at the end. I thought it was going to be a similar concept to Anxiety in Inside Out 2, where they all think they're doing the right thing for the child and are unwilling to meet in the middle. However, as they clash, perhaps they come to some sort of greater understanding. Then again, that is a rather derivative story thread, not just in the immediate past for Pixar with Anxiety and Joy, but also in terms of the overall Toy Story franchise. Buzz and Woody had a very similar story arc during the course of the first film, and so now I'm not so sure. I think I might have just talked myself out of the LilyPad redemption arc, and now I think they're simply going to have her be an out-and-out bad guy like Stinky Pete or Lotso the Bear. The more of the trailer that I watch, the more certain I do become of this as well. Now yes, I've waffled on long enough. Let's talk about the trailer, shall we? We start off the trailer with a type of sequence that I've always really enjoyed from the Toy Story films. Seeing the toys being played with, but within the mind of the child that's playing with them, almost like it's an actual movie. These types of sequences allow the movies to be really fun and creative, but also really show a lot about the child character's personality. Andy's daydreams were these big action set pieces that combined old westerns and sci-fi elements, but here, we see that Bonnie has more of a soap opera type narrative in her playtime. Forky and Karen Beverly, I think her name is, are getting married with Jessie as the officiant, only for Rex to be dramatically murdered at the reception eating cake. It's just a great look into the mind of Bonnie in comparison to Andy. I also like that the background was very storybook-esque, almost like a blending of traditional and CG animation. This is what I feel like they were trying to do with Wish, but there, it didn't work so well. I think it only works in small doses like this because the more you see, the less interesting it becomes. Bonnie's game's interrupted just as it looks like Buzz is going to be giving Rex CPR, as she's alerted by her mum that there's a package for her. I will say though, it seems that the shot of her being interrupted playing and then opening the package seem to be from different points of the movie, because Bonnie's wearing different clothes in each scene. She opens up the package to reveal her brand new LilyPad, and she is extremely excited, whilst it seems that the toys are not exactly thrilled. After all, we see Rex down on the ground with the rest of the toys saying, "Extinction? Not again!" Obviously referring to the extinction of the dinosaurs, but also to Andy no longer playing with them and them getting boxed up, which could happen with Bonnie, and far earlier than it did with Andy. After all, isn't Bonnie 8 in this movie, according to some of the pre-release materials? I'm pretty sure Andy's 8 in Toy Story 2, and yet he's still all aboard playing with his toys. However, whilst the toys will clearly come to see LilyPad as a threat and she will become the villain of the film, I doubt they're going to see her in that light right from the beginning. It seems like they have an awareness of tech pushing toys out somewhat, as Jessie mentioned it when talking to Woody, but I can't see them being nasty or overly mistrusting at first. I think it seems more likely that will only come into play when Bonnie starts to spend all of her time on her devices and neglect her toys almost entirely. As soon as she got LilyPad out of the box, I did come to the conclusion that the film was going to go in the direction of LilyPad as an out-and-out villain. I mean, just look at the change that comes over Bonnie's face as soon as she gets a hold of it. The screen is shining in her eyes, and she completely hones in. It's like she got her hands on the One Ring from Lord of the Rings. Just a quick sidebar here too, but my god, I don't think it'll ever get old for me to see how good Pixar visuals are. Every single film I think to myself, surely they can't top that. And yet they just keep on doing it. Will we ever get to the point of diminishing returns from these movies, do you think? Surely we'll arrive at the point one day where they can go no further and have reached the point of hyper-realism without changing the animation style away from being cartoonish or simply using live action with CGI elements. I suppose we'll have to wait and see, but it doesn't look like it's happening anytime soon. We see that when she gets her tablet, Bonnie is going to become absorbed into it. Here she's laying on the floor scrolling, and she's so engrossed in what she's looking at, she barely cares when the room is bouncing off her. I did find it funny that they chose this scene to have her dad say that her screen time's over, when we can actually see him sitting on his phone scrolling in the background of the shot too. Rather excellent social commentary here, if you ask me. In real life, you see all these parents fretting about their kids becoming digital addicts and not engaging with the world when they are worse by far and are setting a terrible example. Maybe your kid wouldn't escape into the digital world so much if you spent any time with them. I also found this scene really sad because you can see poor Jessie and Bullseye looking at her all neglected, and she just couldn't care less. She continues to spiral further into this addiction, as we see that when her dad's telling her screen time's over, she doesn't even look up at him to say okay. She's still staring and scrolling. Dad has his hand on his hip, so it's pretty clear he's not going to be happy with this scene. I have to say that this also feels very true to life as well. I know for a fact I've been like this when I was on my phone. It's such a bleak and depressing look at the screen habits of humanity, honestly. After what I assume is going to be a montage of Bonnie solely on her lily pad all day, every day, the toys are going to confront her, led by Jessie, with Bullseye as her backup. Bad luck to Dolly, who no longer seems to be the leader of the toys in Bonnie's room. Jessie's the new sheriff in town, I guess. She confronts lily pad and talks how she's corrupting Bonnie, and how the toys have been working all summer to try to get Bonnie to make friends, but now lily pad's ruining it because Bonnie's always scrolling. Here we got a cutaway to show what might have been the reason that Bonnie wanted the lily pad to begin with. She's playing with her toys out in the wild, and she meets 3 kids who all had lily pads and either excluded her or made fun of her for being a baby who still plays with toys. Also, in this shot of the 3 girls, is that a Miraculous Ladybug reference? Dark-haired child with a ladybug tablet? I think it might be. Back to Bonnie, I suspect she feels self-conscious and wants to feel included, and thus she asks her parents to buy her a tablet. Also, somebody needs to turn on Bonnie's parental controls here, as she seems to be able to scroll on Ribbit, which is an obvious spoof on Reddit, which I feel like no 8-year-old should ever be able to access. There are some fairly depraved subreddits that are very easy to get onto. Bonnie's parents need to step up. Obviously, it seems like this conversation is going to go nowhere, and Lilypad is essentially flexing on the other toys, showing how impressive she is, which prompts Ham to walk off and decide to try to find a nice spot behind the dresser for him to become a lost, forgotten toy. So Bonnie's toys come away from this feeling like nothing's changed, and so Jessie's forced to call in the big guns. It's revealed they have a walkie-talkie, whose double is with Woody, and so they can contact him from time to speak. Here we have a conversation between the two, where Jessie asks whether it's as bad out in the wider world as they say, with it being revealed that Woody and Bo are finding more and more lost and abandoned toys each day, and he doesn't know what to do. After all, toys are for play, but tech is for play and so much more than that. It feels to him that perhaps they're becoming obsolete. It seems at first he's probably going to be a bit resigned to it until he hears Jessie talking about how she feels that she's losing Bonnie to the device. I think this in turn is going to spur him into action, and he'll come to see the toys and make his return to Bonnie's room, which I presume is going to be for the first time in a good long while. I guess they would have met up before, given that Woody and Jessie have matching walkie-talkies, but it was probably a long time ago. I do wonder how much of a role the likes of Bo are going to have in this movie too. After all, she doesn't come back with Woody to Bonnie's room, and she isn't there in any of the later scenes in the trailer either. Maybe she stays back helping out abandoned toys whilst Woody goes to deal with this? Woody returns to Bonnie's room like the great hero that he is, complete with a poncho. Of course, nobody appreciates the greatness on display, and they instead ask him if he's wearing a dress. Ugh, don't worry, Woody. I think you look cool. I also love the joke they had of him taking off his hat and the sun shines off the back of his head where the paint had worn away, almost like a bald spot. I love this because it actually shows the wear and tear a 50-year-old toy would actually have, especially from 3 years sleeping rough in the outdoors. But it also makes a funny joke about how Woody himself is just an old-timer. If he was a real person based on the timeline, he'd have to be in his 50s, right? I think the show he was a toy for ended in 1957, so the toy was likely discontinued fairly quickly after that. Depending on whether he was the last toy on the shelf or perhaps the earliest model, the dude could even be pushing 60 years old. He reunites with Buzz, and it seems that they immediately go to confront Lily, who doesn't take long to become a full-on villain. Earlier on, it seemed like she was just going to ignore them and somewhat make fun of them, but here she goes full mask off. She calls Woody an old man toy and then seemingly starts to do something that freaks them out with a GPS tracker. I really don't know, but part of me thinks she must have done something to Jessie and Bullseye, given that they're not present to greet Woody when he arrived back in Bonnie's room, but Jessie's the one that called him. There's also the fact that Buzz seems to be on guard, which implies that something bad has likely happened recently. family. Lily says that Bonnie needs help from somebody from the same century as her, which is where we see one of the most depressing shots in the trailer. Bonnie has seemingly bonded with those girls and maybe even has a sleepover of sorts with them, and yet when they're all hanging out, they're just on their devices. The three friends especially look fully brain-rotted, but I did feel sad for Bonnie because I think it's clear she does want to play and engage with them, she just can't. Look at the look she gives as she sits down on the beanbag after all. Based on all this, I think that Lily's going to either try to get rid of the toys, or is going to be taken on vacation with Bonnie, leaving the toys at home. I think Jesse and Bullseye do get taken along though, which leads to Buzz wanting to stage some sort of rescue perhaps. However, he does say they're going to need backup, which I suspect is him meaning Woody or something, but of course the trailer shows us the Buzz Lightyear army, who actually seem to be massively heroic. This was a bit of a shock to me. I figured they were going to be villains, but I like that they're taking this in a different direction than I expected. We see that the Buzz toys are seemingly survival experts, although they get no dialogue in the trailer either. I wonder if perhaps they don't speak at all. Maybe they don't have voice boxes. They're just silent soldier Buzz toys. We see at one point Buzz and Woody are going to try to apprehend Lilypad, but she's going to absolutely kick their asses. Poor toy's getting bodied by a tablet. You think Woody would have developed some skills out in the wild, but I guess not. They should have brought Bo Peep with them. She would have gotten it done. We get a glimpse of Smarty Pants, the toilet training toy, alongside Jessie and a sticky hand toy, whilst Buzz rallies the troops with a rousing speech that their mission on this planet is to make a child happy. We see the Buzz toys lower Woody into what seems to be a pig pen, and at first, I thought they turned against him for some reason, but then I saw his hat was on the ground, so I expected they're doing this to try to save it on his request. Based on the clips I've seen so far, it's clear that Jessie's going to be a much larger part of the movie than the previous one, and there will be a lot of parallels to her experience from her original owner, Emily. There seems like there's going to be a flashback to that at some point, and then we follow that immediately with a clip of Bonnie looking both upset and happy staring down at Jessie. Jessie then gives a speech about how Bonnie still needs us, as in Jessie and whoever she's talking to. It seems that the trailer tries to fool you into thinking she's talking to Woody and Buzz, and she's trying to ensure that the toys don't give up on Bonnie. However, now that I'm looking at it, it's clear these two scenes are spliced together. It's a different time of day for one, but then you can also see that Woody and Buzz are speaking with Dolly, whilst I think that Jessie's trying to inspire the baby toys to help fight for Bonnie. It seems to work, as we do see later on they ride to battle alongside the Buzz army, Jessie, Woody, OG Buzz, and then a bunch of other original toys I guess they pick up along the way. We then finish off with a little bit of tension between Buzz and Woody, where they begin to squabble like the good old days of 1995 as off they go to find Jessie. I doubt that's going to last long, but like the toys back in the garage say, it is nice to see it again. Thus, I am almost completely turned around on this movie. It's crazy how a single trailer can do all that, but it just feels like a fresh concept and like it's actually addressing a pretty big issue. On top of that, it doesn't seem to walk back the ending consequences of Toy Story 4, and I'm sure they're going to dive into it a little bit more. I also like that Jessie's getting her moment in the sun to have a proper arc, with Woody and Buzz seemingly being her bumbling comedy sidekicks. Woody's pretty much done everything he can, so using him in service to the arcs of other toys does work well. Plus, it also seems as if Buzz is going to get a really big arc himself. Hopefully more than what he got in the last two movies, that's for sure. Could Buzz feel like a proper lead character on equal part of Woody for the first time since 1999? I suppose we'll have to wait and see, but I am very hopeful. The film's set to release on the 19th of June, and judging by the fact it almost has 10 million views on YouTube after a day as of writing this, I think it is going to be massively popular and could gross the big bucks. Maybe they'll even be able to break the franchise record set by the fourth film. It's not massively unattainable either. Is Pixar well and truly back? I don't know. However, I do think they're going to produce a standout film with Toy Story 5, and I really can't wait. With all that being said though, these have been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the trailer for Toy Story 5? Did you like it? Hate it? Has it gotten you excited for the film? Maybe not. Is there anything you'd like to add that you think I missed? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.